Daniel Fournier did it. He beat Frank in the first match to reset the bracket. Now there's only one match left to see who your first ever Cube Tutor champion is.
Wait a minute, we've seen this match before. Oh no, it's the finals.
Daniel versus Frank again. So Fournier won the last match. That means that they've got to play another match here to determine the final winner. So this is it.
This is it.
The finals.
Final
Super
finals, best of 3, winner takes all.
Between the two of them, I mean, Daniel looked pretty good last match. Frank was able to take a game, right?
Yes, he did.
So, I mean, that proves that he can win.
And Frank was in the winner's bracket.
His deck is pretty good. It just doesn't curve out really well. He seems to be behind a little bit. Remember we were talking about playing multiple spells a turn?
Yeah, that Bane could be really good for him.
Oh, yeah. And that's a morph I don't think Daniel has seen yet.
He's seen 3 other morphs.
If he has a chance, he's still probably going to just bounce it or remove it or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's see what he does. Does he have the mana? He's going to loot.
Draws from Looter. Discards of Plains. Has a number of other cheap spells in his hand from what I saw there. One of them looked like a Vaporkin.
Okay.
So he's definitely going to have something to do.
Is he... Yeah,
Jessian Thief.
Okay, Jessian Thief. It's kind of like a looter. His deck's like full of these looter guys.
Does Frank have an... Oh, that gives him the second black. He can also Swamp Cycle the Twisted Abomination.
Yeah, he can.
He can play the Signet and Swamp Cycle and play the Swamp. The
He doesn't
problem
have a
is if
reanimate.
Fournier has a spell that Jessian Thief has prowess, so it would be a 2/4
2/4
attacking.
Yeah, Prowse is pretty good on that thing, especially considering it starts off as a 1/3.
Yeah.
It's already kind of tough to kill.
Frank does...
He cycles the A-bomb,
Yeah, after playing the Signet.
gives it a tap for good luck. So picks up his swamp, and let's see where he goes with this.
Puts it into play.
Puts it into play.
He has
No,
all
he's-
his colors.
He's not going to attack or anything like that because he probably does want to represent at least that he can block. Like you said, if the prowess goes off, then it doesn't matter much.
Yeah, there's not that many instants that Fournier could have that wouldn't affect his creature that would boost the Thief.
But remember, it doesn't have to be an instant. It's just any non-creature.
Right, but I mean, at least Frank would know about that in advance.
Yeah, it would be played in main phase then.
It does
So-
look like there's a snap in Fournier's hand. So if he does want to draw the extra card, he can
Yeah,
just snap the
would be
morph.
pretty good. He would know what the morph is at that point.
Yeah. Untaps his lands.
Snap.
There it is.
Just like that, Bane of the Living.
The gig's up.
Yeah, so that's not much of a surprise anymore. Fournier probably won't walk too many things into it, but he's already got decent pressure on the board. Like, this is already threatening.
He's drawing 2 cards, discarding 1. We see the theme of his deck.
Drawing lots of cards. People, if you want to win at Magic, make sure that all your cards draw more cards.
Yeah, that's the, playing a card like Snap does set you back a card, but if you're using it to draw 2 cards,
Exactly.
then it's just great.
I mean, you can do things in a couple of steps that get you to card advantage, even if the individual card didn't. And again, just made a lot of sense to snap that. Didn't cost him the mana itself, really.
Yeah, Frank looking at Hypnotic Spectre on Burial Rites, the Rushing River again.
So Fournier decides not to play anything. He's just going to hold up.
Looks like the
He's-
Mind Crusher as well. Frantic Surge, so that'll give him extra mana.
Yeah, I like those double lands from Ravnica. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Seeing
Factor
this is
Fiction
the
in response, huh?
versus block game. Snap and
Yeah, and Frantic Search.
Frantic Surge.
All these untaps. That mechanic was basically deemed busted, right? It
Yes.
Was, what do you think the best one is? Is that Treachery, the best untap one of those?
Yes, definitely.
So the split here, is this the final thing? It's 3 and 2, and that's
Well,
a Sunblast.
there's 3
Angel, right?
islands. Yeah, 3 islands, a Sea Gear Oracle, and a Sunblast Angel, so not really much of a decision
Not
for
much
Frank.
of a decision. So the
takes
3
the
cards go to
Sunblast.
the yard.
Sunblast and a 5th land to play it is pretty dangerous.
Yeah. I like Sunblast Angel.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's proven very good for Fournier in the matches we've seen so far.
When I played in the... there was a GP in Toronto, and it was when Scars of Mirrodin came out. And 3 out of my 4 first opponents all had Sunblast Angels.
I had a Sunblast Angel in that tournament.
It was really, really hard to deal with.
And I had a Glimmerpoint Stag, so I could blink it.
Ooh. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
That Scars block was pretty good.
There was half the cards were Infect cards.
Infect is still pretty good. That's a deck.
It was just annoying when you played Sealed and half these cards deal Infect damage and half of them don't. What do I do?
Yeah. So, looks like he puts the Spectre and the Jarl Mind Crusher in the yard, untaps his lands. So he's sitting on 1 mana, everything's untapped. What's he do?
Do the Night Veil Spectre there.
And that's what, Unburial Rites?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to pitch a couple creatures. He's still got the Twisted Abomination there too. That's another
Bane,
option.
he can Bane for 1 now, which would kill the Looter and allow him to be able to probably take down the Jessian Thief as well. Fournier might keep the Jessian Thief at home for that reason.
Yeah, it still has a lot of future value, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I would swing with just the Looter. Unless he has some kind of instant that he's not shown us. So Fournier's got, lots of cards in hand.
Well, that's what happens when you have Jessian Thief and a Looterial Core.
So many options.
Hypnotic Sirens, Vaporkin, Sunblast Angel, and a
Bunch
few
of
lands, it
lands.
looks like.
Yeah, the only decision really for Daniel here is just he's pretty sure that's the Bane of the Living. He doesn't want to lose advantage to it, even though he's been drawing so many cards.
Especially when he has the Vaporkin in his hand and the Hypnotic Siren. If he plays those
right.
both, he just loses most of his team.
Yeah, he can't, walk into this.
He does
just
attack
the
with just
Looter.
the Looter. Time to pop the trigger? Yes, it is.
He does it. It's still worth it. The Bane of the Living sits there as a 4/3, which in and of itself is very nice.
Bane of the Living, one of my favorite morphs.
Yeah, it's really good. And especially in this type of cube. In my black-blue deck that I played, I had a Bane of the Living. It was really, really good.
This is like playing EV's Greatest Hits, Volume
I know. Of course I remember the cards that I won with. And those are the cards that are kind of in the finals here.
Frank on 6 mana, so
His hand is pretty stocked too. He's got a Rushing River in there as well. Looks like he's going for the Night Veil Spectre.
leaving up Rushing River mana.
Yeah.
He can also bounce that Bane for another use.
Night Veil Spectre did a lot of work against Lucas when he played.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't had a chance yet in any of the games to play it against Fournier. And Fournier's playing his colors.
It was against Theo, the first match, the Night Veil Spectre
Oh,
kept hitting
yeah.
those forests.
Yeah, that's right.
He played a morph as well. I don't even know
Sunblast, boom.
Yeah.
That morph, I didn't see. Is that the Thousand Winds?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it is.
Just use the X-ray vision we have.
Zoom. Yes, it is the Thousand Winds.
Kega, very dangerous against Hypnotic Siren that's in Fournier's
Oh,
hand.
yeah, that's right. He just needs one more mana, which I think is already in his hand.
he has it already.
Hypnotic Siren, Siren, Siren. That card's
Is that
pretty
what
good. I
Sirens
like
do?
that. Yeah. Reminds me of a Samurai Jack episode about the Sirens. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, that's a good episode. Shout out to Samurai Jack.
Shout out to Samurai Jack.
It's a good cartoon.
Yeah, no, it was.
So the Sunblast has done a little bit of work there.
But Rushing River, a very nice answer.
It is. And if he Rushing Rivers the Kiga, does the thing become a 1/1 or?
Yes.
It does, because it would have gone to the graveyard. Yeah, that makes sense. He doesn't want to just bounce the enchantment, though. That wouldn't make too much sense, I think.
No. Well, what he can do is, if he wanted to, he could have waited until it attacks, but before they would be tapped.
And then
out.
maybe he could have used the Kiga
Use it
to
as a
block
blocker,
the
but yeah, you can't.
Sunblast.
It would have been tapped, so I mean, Fournier would have known about it.
Yeah, it would have been a bit too obvious. Is he going to attack with the Nightveil Spectre? No? Thinking about it.
It's keeping back the Vaporkin and the Hypnotic Siren now, though. Ah, it's going in.
It's going in. Takes the top. Let's see it. Boom, Island. That's not bad.
It's not bad. Has he played a land already this turn?
And High Sentinels of Arashin.
Yes.
High Sentinels, good card. Hopefully we can see it do some work. Might just get, what was it? What's that blue card that tapped it? Wasn't
Narcolepsy.
Narcolepsy. Might get Narcolepsy.
Looks like Fournier has the counterspell. He still has that Sunblast Angel.
And with a flourish, he sends in the Angel. Frank takes it. Frank probably wants to put some counters on his flyers.
Yeah, he does have he
Ooh,
does have
Brago.
flyers this game.
Yeah.
A lot of previous games he was stuck with a bunch of ground guys, but he does have
Brago,
flyers. this game.
Bragago. So if that's the 1,000 wins, he's really hoping that he can flip it to send back some of those attackers next turn.
He does have 7 mana. I believe it's 7 to flip.
It is 7, yeah. Is that what you would do in this situation? Hold the mana for the
It makes
unmorphing?
it kind of obvious, but I mean, I suppose you're also leaving High Sentinel mana up. Because Fournier knows he has the Kega in hand.
Yeah, so by not playing the Kiga, he automatically implies there's something else going on.
Yeah, the alarm bells would start to go off. But, I mean, Kega does stop the whole board.
5/5 flyer, yeah, it's just a good blocker. And getting the creature out earlier, meaning it can attack the next turn, like, anytime you're not playing a creature with haste, you always have to kind of think it's 2 turns
Yeah.
ahead before you can really even start thinking about attacking with it, so
Of course, we know Fournier has the counterspell in
he
hand.
does. It's going to be useful at some point anyway.
The counterspell? Or the
Yeah,
Kega?
the
counterspell,
counterspell.
I'm pretty sure counterspell is going to happen this turn unless Frank passes and does nothing.
So what's Frank thinking? Frank doesn't know he has counterspell. Obviously, he's just looking to max out his turn. Bum bum bum. It's tense. And of course, like most of these games, it's going late, right?
Yeah. This is the initial rush. You get to the mid game.
Yep.
And that's where the evasion really shines.
And
Yes.
the extra use of cards like blinking and all that sort of stuff here.
It does have the Graveborn Muse, which has been a little bit of a liability so far.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to play it early enough for it to, give him the cards in earlier turns and not threaten his life total when he's below 10 already.
Well, he's often been behind by turn 4, and then he spends his other plays kind of catching up, and it gets a little bit
Yeah.
stranded sometimes.
That's probably why I think I like Daniel's deck a little bit better. It always has things to do, and
Yeah.
it gets out of the gates early, and then in the late game, it holds up with a deck like Frank's.
Yeah, having versatile cards like Hypnotic Siren and
Yeah.
really allows you to maximize your mana, whether you get flooded or whether you get a little bit screwed. You can just play it as a 1/1 flyer for 1.
That's right. It's just a flying man at that point. It's the newest, greatest flying man.
Well, how many other flying mans are there?
Cloud Pirates.
Okay.
Well, they can't block. And there's another one, like an airship or something.
There's a green one too, isn't there?
A Scrib Sprites.
Yes.
No, but I'm talking about blue ones. So what happens? What's going to happen here?
Both in the tank. So
That's
the
what
High
happens when you play
Sentinels-
islands.
High Sentinels gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it.
Oh.
So it can pump the Nightveil Spectre and boost them both by 1.
Wait, sorry, say that again. So does it currently have +1/+1 for
No.
the other flyers?
No, it for every other creature you have with a +1/+1 counter.
Oh,
it
with
gets
the
+1/+1.
counter. Okay.
Yeah.
And it puts the counters only on flyers.
No, it puts the counters on any creature.
Oh,
Get your fact sheet. You love this card so much, you have no idea what it does.
I don't. I really don't. I gotta read up.
It's just a 3/4 flyer for 4. It's still pretty good at that.
No, I thought it was just a 3/4 flyer for 4 that you can pay 4 to put a +1/+1 counter on a flyer.
Oh, it's way better than that.
I know, and I liked it then. So blocky.
So if he does pump one of his other creatures, the Brago will die. But the Night Veil Spectre is currently chump blocking, and even boosting its power toughness will not make it survive.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's still worth it just to try and take care of the Brago here, but...
Well, as I said, you can pump one of the other creatures. You can pump the Graveborn Muse or the Morph.
Oh, yeah.
Targets itself. I'm not sure if that's what he wanted to do.
Because you're saying it would get the +1/+1 anyway because of the counter on a different creature.
Yeah. But again, a lot of these cards. This is Frank's first time playing this cube.
Yeah.
He, as we've seen before, he's already had to read a couple of the cards, and he's still in the finals.
I don't know. I mean, even for me, I find a lot of newer cards tricky just because they do so many things. Like, they're just better than I expect.
Yeah.
I'm expecting, Ice Age level creatures. Like a Bone Shaman.
If it did what you thought it did, then Frank's play was actually the best way to do it.
Yeah, if you forget about its true power. The true power of the dark side. Even though it's a white card.
The picture's a little dark. There's definitely some shading in that picture.
Yeah, they're like stormtroopers or something. Now, Frank's drawing up some cards here.
Memory Lapse into land.
Or was that a swamp? Was it Memory Lapse?
Yeah,
it is Memory Lapse. So Frank's at 4.
You can still play the Kega.
Still has the Kega, yeah.
But now he only has one flying blocker. So does it need to be... The 1,000 Winds would actually bounce his High Sentinels as well, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, 1,000 Winds. Here it comes. Is Frank going to do it? No? Maybe? Yes,
Looks
no?
like Kega mana to me.
Oh, maybe he even just forgot.
It's first. That's what it is. It's just a first. No, Frank's taking his time. He's going to think it through. And... Kega? Kega? Is it Kega? No,
Nope.
not yet.
Tappity untap. Tappity tap.
His Umbrella Rights targets aren't great. None of them creatures are flying except for Hypnotic Spectre. And the Night Veil Spectre, of course.
Oh, is Night Veil Spectre in his yard?
Yeah, jump blocked the Sunblast Angel last turn.
Oh, yeah, Night Veil Spectre. I was thinking of the other one, Silent Spectre. He has
Boom!
that
There
too.
goes the 1,000 Winds.
1,000 Winds. And then he'd better not attack because...
Sunblast Angel's there.
Sunblast Angel.
Well, I might attack with the Graveborn Muse.
Yeah, Graveborn Muse. Frank goes with both. He's going to be aggressive.
He has the Memory Lapse, right?
Yeah, he does.
So this actually makes sense, this attack with the Memory Lapse.
It makes sense. Good for Frank.
Oh, changes his mind.
Well, but then again, does Forney still have that counterspell in his hand? He does, yeah. And
He
the mana
does,
to
yes,
play
but
it
Frank
and the
doesn't know
Sunblast.
that.
So Frank's like, I'm not going to be too risky. I'll just try to get
Well, he only has
5
4
in.
turns to kill Fournier.
Yeah. Getting a bit aggressive is probably okay there.
It might have actually even made sense to attack with the Graveborn Muse first.
Instead,
Assuming
that's what we
Fournier
were
lets
thinking.
it through, because it's a clock, then you can flip the 1,000 Winds.
Yep.
Yeah, bouncing that Hypnotic Siren. Memory Lapse.
Memory Lapse
and
the
here's the
Siren.
counterspell.
Yeah, he'll do it. Counterspell. Counterspell with the weird sad face on it.
Yes.
It just
It's
says
a sad
no.
face for your opponent, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, because you're usually pretty happy when you're casting counterspell.
You're indifferent. As a blue player, you're just going,
I love casting
this
counterspell.
is just what I need to do to win.
Dissolve, it's fine, but nothing beats a good old, down to the earth,
Counterspell.
grassroots counterspell, exactly.
I love that old Mark Poole picture where he's like, "Wee."
The Jessian Thief can attack into the
Oh.
Graveborn Muse because it wasn't played as a creature.
It's an enchantment.
Yes.
Interesting. So, yeah, technically it was a enchantment spell. But is it a creature spell too, though?
No, because it's not being played as a creature spell.
So that's what they're looking at here. Jessian Thief swings in.
And he's also played counterspell, so it's actually a 3/5 right now,
Oh,
isn't
yeah,
it?
that's right, the counter spell.
So Frank has to block.
So it looks like Daniel actually had to call Kelly to get a ruling on that. It's a bit tricky because on the card it says enchantment creature. It says both.
Yes.
So when you play it, it's a spell on the stack, and it's an enchantment spell at that point because you've played it for its bestow cost.
Right.
Well, there you go.
This is...
Frank is in a really tricky situation here. Like you said, he has to block.
He has to block.
3 damage. There's not an option here, I think.
Even if he reads it another time, he'll still have to block.
And untaps it. He's like, no, you didn't attack.
Talking about the dark side, trying to use some Jedi mind tricks.
Here's some mind tricks from Frank. He's cornered, so...
And this is, again, we're seeing Fournier's aggressive deck with some great late-game plays.
Yeah, it's almost more like a blue-white Flyers deck, right? Like
Yeah.
Maybe it's even a Caw Blade, almost.
It's Flyers, but then it's like this whole bunch of Ophidians.
Yeah, and that's really what's pushing a lot of the advantage. Like, just so much card draw, and that's not even speaking about, like, he's playing Fact or Fiction at the end of the tournament,
Muldrifter. Yeah.
It's really good.
Who let him draft this deck?
I don't know, Frank apparently.
Again, we see these... I mean, Frank, we saw 2 previous white-black drafters, and now a white-blue drafter.
Yeah, those colors apparently were deep. I mean, if enough people thought they were getting the cards they wanted.
Well, Frank moved into blue because it actually seemed open.
It seemed open.
But red was also looking pretty open. And
yeah, red was the ticket because we saw that really late Sulfuric Vortex and stuff like that.
Well, we've seen Maya and Lucas play red.
Yeah, so they must have ended up with a lot of those cards really late, which would be good for them.
Just shows you the depth of the cards in a cube, right? I mean, even the cards you get late are all great cards because it's cube.
Yeah, they're very playable. It's just up to you to put them in the best position, right?
It's another reason why I really value having a nice curve.
Yes.
Because if you're casting powerful spells, you want to be doing that every turn.
Yes, and I think that's what we're seeing here between Daniel and Frank's deck. Frank's deck is cool and has a lot of good cards, but he really kind of choked up on the 4-drops. A la these 2 cards, right?
Exactly. So that 1,000 wins was a 6-7 before, and now would be a 3-4. So it's no longer big enough to get through the High Sentinels.
Which is nice. Good play from Frank. Keeps him alive at least for now.
Yeah, and I mean, Fournier is only at 9, and with the High Sentinels in play,
he could be threatening.
There's still a chance. I mean, Frank's not out of it yet.
Yeah, they're both counting each other's libraries, it looks like.
Muldrifter for Fournier. What we were just talking about. Great way to pull ahead.
Muldrifter. I really like that card.
Oh, it's
so good.
It was a common in Lorwyn.
Yeah, and we haven't even seen Daniel evoke it. Like, if Fournier was in a bad spot where he just had the 3 lands and he needed to get somewhere, evoke it and draw the 2 cards. It's so much value.
I just don't understand how they printed it as a common.
It's good enough to be an uncommon for sure. It's better than a lot of rares.
It was reprinted in
Modern Masters
as an uncommon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there you're seeing...
Learn their lesson.
It's good enough to be an uncommon.
Dismember. There. Oh, there goes the defenses are down. Frank's down to 1. And looking at 3 lethal creatures on the board.
Frank, what you got here?
I have 4 lethal creatures on the board. This
2-1 flyer.
He does have the reanimate for the Bane of Living, but it doesn't bring it into play face down.
Reanimate also, yeah. It's
not the reanimate. The burial rites.
Oh, on burial
rites,
yeah. This is too much damage. He's already at 1.
This is only game 1 of the second match.
The power of that dismember.
Yeah. It's so great we're on offense because the life loss doesn't matter.
All right.
Frank's scooped it up.
He's like, hey, how about these?
Be sure to count to 40 before you sideboard. Oh, man.
All right. Fournier, if he wins this one, he's won the whole thing. Come back from the loser's bracket.
Yeah. It's the feel-good story of the year. Losers become winners. Winners become losers.
Up is down. White is black.
Well, I mean, Frank's got a chance here. His deck is really not bad, and obviously if everything just runs well, he can get there. It just feels like the games tend to play out in a very similar fashion, right?
Frank's kind of fighting. He's fighting with his mana and his curve at the same time.
Yes.
You know,
While fighting against the sheer amount of card draw and card
yeah.
quality that Daniel has.
And he mulligans down to 6 for this game. Does get the benefit of scrying 1.
The Vancouver Mulligan, of course, in effect.
But,
Do you think it's going to be called Vancouver Mulligan, like, for the rest of its tenure in Magic, or are people just going to call it a Mulligan?
they'll just call it a mulligan, and then the old one will get a name.
Oh, be called, like,
It was the Paris Mulligan.
Paris Mulligan,
right?
there you go. Or that was what the old one was called. Or is that what the
No,
current
I think
one is?
the one that they were using up until the Vancouver one was the Paris one. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Frank scries to the top.
And yeah, that's an alright hand. 2
At
lands.
least 2 colors of mana.
He's got a hippie sitting there, too, if he can get it out.
What did he scry to the top? Aqueduct.
Oh, Aqueducts. Yeah.
Flips right off the top.
Frank's playing fast. He's like, the clock's running out.
Aqueduct on the play. Of course, great play because you don't have to discard, but
Yeah.
especially when you mulligan, it's not going to set you back. Gives you that extra land drop. I really like the fact that Frank has 2 of these in his deck because it really helps him hit his late game land drops.
Yeah. And if you have a couple of lands like that, do you end up... Does it push you to play fewer? Would you play like 16 or something?
I would if my curve was lower, but Frank has a lot of stuff to do with a lot of... I mean, he has the
Yeah.
Condescend, he has the Thousand Winds, the Bane.
Actually, yeah, it is his morphs that he tends to play early. So the Manowar, of course, bounced the Spectre. Spectre gets replayed. Frank leaves up a blue/black mana.
Condescend for 0.
That, what's it called? What's that Skite thing again?
The Riftwing?
Riftwing Cloud Skate, sorry. I was going to call it Cloud Skite. But Riftwing Cloud Skate is sitting only on 1 counter, ready to come in. That card's so good. I know we've said it before. I really like it.
Yeah, it's great. And there's the Aqueduct to bounce if he wants.
Yeah.
And he's choking the mana this game, looks like.
It gives him a blocker for that hippie. The
Grand Arbiter does not have flying.
well, no, I mean, if we're talking about the Cloudscape when it comes into play.
Yes.
I'm still on the Cloudscape, folks.
Okay.
I just can't stop talking about it.
So 5 mana, but everything you place costs 1 more.
So he
Tax
goes
first.
straight in. And it's a random discard, so Fournier doesn't get to decide. Frank's hoping he hits something critical. Oh, decides to just show the Condescend. Hits a mana. Oh, we'll see if that matters.
And now does he play the Skin Render?
Would you?
Well, Skin Render's nice because even if the Riftwing bounces it, it won't do anything.
It'll still have the value, yeah. Well, he decides not to do anything. I guess he's just holding up the memory lapse for the Cloudscape.
Costs 3, and now he can't Condescend.
He can Condescend for 1.
No, because of the
Oh,
Arbiter.
because of the Arbiter. Sorry, yeah. Arbiter's still doing its job. And on the other side, I mean, Arbiter's making things cheaper for Fournier, too.
Yeah. So even without the extra land, so hitting the planes, really wasn't great because of the Arbiter.
Yeah. Probably just was the least effective card in his hand.
Bounces the Aqueduct.
Ooh.
Attacks for 4. Narcolepsy.
Narcolepsy.
Not Expector.
Again, he's playing all these cards in a turn, and he's just getting so far.
Yeah.
It really shows the power of playing those cheap cards. Frank draws an island.
I mean, he can only play something that costs 3 this turn. He can't even play the Skin Render anymore.
No. Decides to maybe get himself to the Skin Render mana.
Yeah, but then you're not leaving up Condescend either.
No.
Not sure if Fournier did see the Condescend when it was dropped, but I mean, if he plays around that, leaving it up for this turn seems not great.
Yeah. It's a bad situation all around. Because all these guys are just attacking with impunity.
Yeah, half Frank's life is going to be gone now. Biden.
Biden,
Gonna oh boy.
Terrible.
And if Frank's seen enough, that's it. Fournier is your champion. He wins the whole tournament.
Let's look at what Fournier has to say.
Congratulations, Daniel, you did it. You took down Tall Frank in the finals of the Cube Tutor Championship Series.
Thank you.
You've won this. So you get to design a card. You have a 1-year subscription to the Cube Tutor Champion program.
Sweet.
How did you do it? How did you take this thing down?
I picked lots of blue cards. Basic Island is the best card in Magic, and I'd like to thank Brago King Eternal for carrying me to this victory.
Tell me a little bit about that finals match against Frank. You must have been intimidated just by his stature alone.
He's a tall man. I'll give him that. His deck was really strong. Lots of late game, lots of Reanimator. My deck was intended to be a late game focused deck, but his late game was way better than mine, so I had to make a lot of sideboarding and gameplay decisions based on trying to out-tempo him. Fortunately, I was able to do it in enough games to take it, so worked out.
What was the one MVP in your deck?
Frostwalker. There was a game where it dealt 8 damage and then killed a Graveborn Muse. So that was pretty value.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank all of you for watching at home. From Milo the Gathering, Face to Face Games Toronto, and CubeTutor.com. Bye, everyone. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
It's beautiful.
A one-of-a-kind work of art.